Tonight, lights out. Millions of Florida lose power when a nuclear reactor suddenly shuts down. With no red lights, it's courtesy or chaos at corner after corner. I'm Katie Couric. Also tonight, an olive branch from Barack Obama to Hillary Clinton.
We're both trying out for quarterback, but we're on the same team.
The insurance industry says this is one of the safest mid-size SUVs. And this is one of the worst. And don't know much about history?
When was the Civil War?
Teens and the totally scary knowledge gap.
This is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric.
Good evening, everyone. With 18 million people, Florida has the fourth largest population of any state in America. And today, 1 out of 5 of them suddenly found themselves without electricity. A nuclear plant south of Miami automatically shut down, cutting off power to as many as 4 million people from Daytona Beach all the way down to Key West. From Miami tonight, here's Kelly Kobiea.
It hit in the middle of the day when most people were working. Across Florida, traffic lights died, high-rise elevators stopped, and confusion reigned. Miami-Dade County felt the brunt of it. 400 schools held students long after the last bell, fearing the roads weren't safe enough for buses.
I was scared and I just ran to pick her up.
The outage came on a steamy, summer-like day. Natalie Toro thinks she heard it.
It's like a bomb, but exploded, but not like a bomb, but it hurts really strong.
That sound came from a power substation in Miami, the possible source of the statewide blackout. It triggered the back-of-the-mind suspicion of terrorism, one Miami-Dade County's mayor quickly dismissed.
There's absolutely no indication whatsoever that there's any foul play involved.
Florida Power and Light blamed the blackout on equipment failure at a power substation in Miami. When it stopped working, it created a power surge, which caused 2 nuclear reactors at Turkey Point Power Plant south of the city to protectively shut down. Miami-Dade, Broward, Palm Beach, and Monroe counties down to Key West went dark. The outage then triggered a chain reaction through 7 power plants. Lights flickered in the central part of the state, cascading north all the way to the capital, Tallahassee. At its height, some 4 million people were without power. Florida Power and Light still doesn't know what caused the initial failure.
We want to assure you that this failure is in no way a safety issue.
For most of Florida, the crisis has passed, the lights are back on, but for FPL, Florida Power and Light, the main power company here, really the work is just beginning. It'll take several days at least to get down to the real nitty-gritty of this problem. Katie?
Meanwhile, Kelly, are there not systems in place to keep this from happening?
There are, actually, and FPL said tonight that this was actually a very small equipment malfunction within a substation, and it should not have spread outside of that substation and certainly not caused a widespread statewide outage. That's the puzzle they're trying to figure out, why those controls didn't work. And it definitely caused a lot of problems here. I mean, the fire department, the police department, both inundated with phone calls in South Florida, not only for traffic accidents on the street, but to rescue people from stranded elevators.
Oh, that's scary. Sounds like one big mess. Kelly Kobiea. Kelly, thank you. Now turning to Campaign 08, Democrats Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama are debating tonight in Cleveland. It's their last face-off before the big primaries next week in Ohio and Texas. Earlier today, Obama picked up some new support. Here's Jim Axelrod.
Endorsing Barack Obama, Senator Chris Dodd became the first of Obama's former rivals to say, if it isn't over yet, it should be.
This is a moment of unity in our country, a time when we need to come together as a Democratic Party and to get behind a candidacy that expresses the aspirations, the hopes, the ambitions of millions and millions of Americans.
To support this effort. A 5-term senator and former party chairman, Dodd warned that the campaign's nasty turn in the last few days must stop.
Shame on you, Barack Obama.
Today, Obama followed Dodd's suggestion and took the high road, as you'd expect from a frontrunner.
We're both trying out for quarterback, but we're on the same team.
But Clinton sounded like she'll keep the pressure on tonight in what could be her last chance to stop him.
I got a little hot over the weekend down in Cincinnati, because I don't mind having a debate. I don't mind airing our differences.
The latest poll in Ohio shows Clinton up 11, but falling. She was up by 21 a little more than a week ago. You don't buy it's an 11-point spread?
No.
State Party Chairman Chris Redfern, an uncommitted superdelegate, says it's not enough for her to win Ohio. She's got to win big.
I do think that when Barack Obama narrows the lead, 51-49, 52-48, that we have a nominee.
Even if it's Hillary Clinton with the 51 or the 52?
Yeah, the numbers aren't there. It's about counting delegates.
That idea extends far beyond Ohio. Hillary Clinton has to sweep all of the primaries after next Tuesday and win 60% of the votes in the process just to even the delegate count. And remember, she hasn't come within 17 points of Barack Obama in the last 11 contests. Katie?
All right, Jim Axelrod. Jim, thanks a lot. Meanwhile, in the battleground Buckeye state of Ohio, voters have one thing on their minds. Here's our senior political correspondent, Jeff Greenfield.
For all the heated charges of dirty tricks in the pre-debate run-up, when it comes to the #1 issue in Ohio, the contenders sound very much the same.
You gotta stop giving tax breaks to companies that are moving overseas.
She'll get tough on unfair trade deals and end tax breaks to companies that ship jobs overseas.
Why the common theme? You can find the answer here in Tiffin, a town of some 20,000 where this shuttered American Standard plant once employed hundreds.
They shut it down right before Christmas, in a Merry Christmas kind of way, I guess.
But is the company still in existence?
The company's still in existence. They have, of course, they have production in China and Mexico.
Senator Sherrod Brown, who won his seat in 2006 with a strong attack on trade deals like NAFTA.
I mean, really is the same old story. Laying off American workers, investment companies coming in from Wall Street, buying the plant, not living up to all their obligations to the workers, moving the plant overseas, shutting the plant down.
Like communities all over Ohio, Tiffin has seen a once thriving working class devastated by the loss of jobs that have seemingly vanished from the face of the earth, only to reappear on the other side of the earth. And it is that issue more than any other that Ohio Democrats want their candidates for president to address. What's going to decide who you vote for? What matters most?
Keeping jobs here. I mean, so nobody has to go through what we've gone through.
At the coffee break, some of the men laid off by American Standard say they know what they want the next president to do.
I think there's got to be a drastic overhaul of the NAFTA agreement. There's got to be equal playing fields.
But while both Clinton and Obama are critical of NAFTA now, their past embrace of trade deals has Democrats like Toledo Congresswoman Marcy Kaptur skeptical.
Because she never expressed an objection before, and she supported all of the NAFTA-like agreements in the Senate. So has Senator Obama. And so we want to know, do they really understand what's happened in the heartland?
For now, the folks in Tiffin reflect the same mixed emotions of other Democrats, hope versus experience.
Everybody knows about Hillary, everybody knows about John McCain. Those are kind of the old news. But when you take a look at Obama, he brings something new to the table.
I believe that she, through her experience as First Lady, and then as Senator, is really on top of things.
Beyond the primary next week looms one fundamental question. In a state where more than 200,000 manufacturing jobs have disappeared in the last 7 years, can any president, any policy, make the promise of good-paying jobs for towns like this one more than a fading memory? Jeff Greenfield, CBS News, Tiffin, Ohio.
Of course, a big issue in this election is health care, and a new report today may give that issue even more urgency. It says that by 2017, health care spending will be over $4 trillion a year, almost double what it is now. That would account for 1 out of every $5 spent in this country. The report blames inflation and aging baby boomers. In Louisiana today, victims of Hurricanes Rita and Katrina finally had their day in court, and their cases could have far-reaching implications. At issue, should insurance companies have to pay homeowners for a kind of damage not covered in the policy? Hari Srinivasan reports.
If Hitler didn't kill you, Katrina didn't kill you either.
92-year-old Joseph Schur talks about surviving the Holocaust, surviving Hurricane Katrina, and now trying to survive a fight with his insurance company.
I still can't see the water was this high.
The levee breaches on the day after the storm flooded Schur's basement with 4 feet of water. He had almost $370,000 worth of damage. Scher's insurance company gave him less than $3,000.
Yes, I pay insurance, pay and pay and pay.
Scher's case being argued before the state Supreme Court is being watched by hundreds of thousands of people who've not recouped damages from their insurance companies post-Katrina.
A flood is a flood.
Insurers argue that they are not responsible for covering any flood damage.
It should not make a difference what caused a flood no more than it makes a difference what causes a fire.
But Scher's lawyers argue that man-made disasters such as a breach of levees should be covered.
You buy a homeowner's policy and you pay a premium for it. You've got an expectation that if there's a catastrophic man-made failure of the levees, it's covered.
Ed Sherman, former dean at Tulane Law, says the outcome of this case will have a huge ripple effect.
We're talking in the hundreds of millions, if not billions, when it's all added up, and tens, if not 100,000 people.
People could also be affected by a second case up for review. The court also heard arguments in the wind versus water controversy. Homeowners who lost everything may stand to gain if the court decides that wind or water, they should have been covered. Hari Srinivasan, CBS News, New Orleans.
And there is much more CBS News ahead, including they're big and heavy, but how well do SUVs protect you in a crash? It depends. But up next, people worried about losing their homes now have a new concern: foreclosure rescue scams. More Americans are finding they can't keep up with their mortgage payments. The research firm Realty Track reported today that the number of homes facing foreclosure is up 57% in the past year. And for struggling homeowners, a word of caution: beware of those offering to help. Once again, here's Kelly Kobayea in tonight's Hitting Home.
Colleen Gaynor's first home was a bargain.
It was a work in progress for sure.
A fixer-upper with a mortgage she could afford on her teacher's salary. She paid it on time for 7 years. But when her daughter started college,
some things financially came up that, I thought she just had to have.
Kayleen was days from foreclosure when a stranger appeared on her doorstep offering help.
She came with someone that I knew. So I kind of felt safe in saying, okay, well, let me hear what you have to offer.
She had never heard of the company National Foreclosure Management, but their solution sounded like a godsend. She and her grandchildren could stay in her home. All she had to do was sign over the title. She agreed, but about a year later, another surprise at her door: an eviction notice.
When I walked up and saw that, I thought, it's over.
Kayleen fell victim to a foreclosure rescue scam. Here's how it works. Companies like Foreclosure Rescue Management offer to hold the title to your home for a year. You're allowed to live there while they refinance your debt. But behind the scenes, they sell the title to a new buyer who demands high rent you can't possibly pay. You end up in the same place you began, out of your home.
We know that they were bad apples.
Florida's Attorney General has filed suit against National Foreclosure Management for bilking at least 80 homeowners of nearly $2 million.
There are at least 20 other businesses being investigated right now, and I suspect we'll unearth many more as we go through this.
Nationwide, foreclosure fraud is a booming business. In Cleveland, 21 rescue companies opened in the last year alone. 12 states are fighting back with tough new anti-fraud laws.
Are you the potential victim of a foreclosure scam?
Federal lender Freddie Mac posted its own beware sign on YouTube. But for those who have already fallen into the scammer's trap, get out! It's nearly impossible to get out. Kayleen Gaynor lost $50,000 in equity. She'd like to buy back her home, but the mortgage payments have more than doubled.
I will stay as long as I can. And after that,
she wants her story to serve as a warning so others aren't robbed of house and hope. Kelly Kobayea, CBS News, Coconut Creek, Florida.
Now to the CBS News Money Watch. If someone tells you he can get it for you wholesale, don't expect a bargain. The government says wholesale prices in the past year are up nearly 7.5%, the biggest increase in a quarter century. Meanwhile, Starbucks took a coffee break today. The chain shut all 7,100 stores for 3 hours to retrain employees so they can put more emphasis on making the perfect shot of espresso. So if you were looking for a half-caff, no-foam, tall, skinny latte with legs, Try again tomorrow. From beans to seeds now, and protecting the world's food supply from future disasters. Norway today opened a frozen doomsday vault deep within an Arctic mountain. Eventually, millions of seeds will be stored there just in case, a kind of Noah's Ark for plants. When we come back, SUVs and safety will show you some of the best and worst. In consumer news tonight, bigger isn't always better when it comes to safety on the road. Thalia Assuris has the results of the insurance industry's latest crash tests for midsize SUVs.
SUVs are getting safer, but there is room for improvement. Leading among midsize SUVs is the 2009 Nissan Murano, which earned full points for protection in front, side, and rear collisions, the only one of 9 tested to be crowned a top safety pick. It's largely because of electronic stability control, a system designed to prevent vehicles from skidding out of control, and increasingly standard in more and more SUVs.
For side protection, we have a high-strength body.
Nissan also credits better protection in side impacts.
We have seat-mounted side airbags right here.
Oh, right there.
And so as the seat moves, you get that protection. Also, on the top here is the curtain airbag that extends not only for the front seat, but also the rear seats.
Most people think SUVs are safe because they're big, you ride higher up, and there's better visibility. But by and large, SUVs are actually not as safe as passenger cars.
We really expected that we would see a lot of good and acceptable performers here. And we did see some, but we had 3 vehicles that were only marginal or poor for side impact protection, and that did surprise us.
The 2008 Jeep Liberty, Jeep Wrangler 4-door, and Kia Sorento scored the lowest on side impact crashes. Many SUVs have improved head restraints to protect against whiplash in rear collisions. Not the 2008 Mazda CX-7, CX-9, or the Mitsubishi Endeavor, though, which rated low.
And we're seeing more vehicles with better head restraints, but that is one area where midsize SUVs lag behind.
Lagging most? This year's tough-looking Hummer H3, rated only acceptable for front and side impacts, poor for rear collisions, which goes to show that just because a car looks tough doesn't mean it is. Thalia Assuris, CBS News, Alexandria, Virginia.
And for more about the SUV crash test, you can go to cbsnews.com, click on CBS Evening News for a complete list of how different models performed. Turning overseas now, the ice-cold relations between the United States and North Korea warmed just a bit today, with the New York Philharmonic performing in Pyongyang. It opened by playing both countries' national anthems and an American in Paris for an audience made up of North Korea's communist elite, though Kim Jong-il was a no-show. The New York Philharmonic brought down the house with its finale, a Korean folk song. The standing ovation lasted 5 minutes. And finally tonight, if it's true a little knowledge is a dangerous thing, a new survey suggests some of the least dangerous people in the world may be America's 17-year-olds. Here's Ben Tracy.
For generations now, we've been asking the same question. What's the matter with kids these days? A new survey of 17-year-olds found that when asked which year Columbus sailed the ocean blue, 26% did not say 1492.
When was the Civil War?
And a whopping 57% did not know the Civil War happened in the last half of the 19th century. Roughly when did the Civil War occur?
1861.
Okay, very good. At this high school in Oakland, California, the students were pretty sharp. Which American poet wrote the volume of poetry Leaves of Grass?
I want to say Walt Whitman.
You're right. But other historical names like anti-communist crusader Senator Joe McCarthy have been, well, blacklisted.
Is he the senator that did the bathroom stint?
There's no reason for them to care.
The author of a new book, The Dumbest Generation, says teenagers are too distracted by computers and social networking.
This is what is crowding out the materials of history, civics, and so on.
But a lot of educators say all this talk about the dumbest generation is really quite stupid. They say high school is more demanding than it's ever been, and students don't need to necessarily know a litany of dates because they can just Google them.
I know that this generation is the smartest that we've had.
Teacher Steve Phelps says students are expected to analyze concepts rather than recite dates.
People think that not knowing the old information means you're not educated, but they don't look at what this generation knows today.
Closing that gap between teens and their parents may be the real test. Ben Tracy, CBS News, San Francisco.
And though most of these kids were born in 1990, only half know what the novel 1984 is about. If you don't, well, ask your big brother. And that is the CBS Evening News. I'm Katie Couric. Thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.
For news 24 hours a day, click on CBSNews.com. Brought to you in part by Pulsar Pro Health from Oral-B. There's an exciting pulse that can give you a dentist clean feeling. Pulsar Pro Health from the experts at Oral-B. Soft micropulse bristles pivot and pulse to clean deep between teeth, giving you a dentist clean feeling. Pulsar Pro Health from Oral-B.